This is home. Twin States News starts right now.
After months of debate on the school bond issue and after yesterday's special election, we now know the $34 million bond was approved. Twin States News' Donisha Branham has reaction from district staff.
Meridian voters passed a $34 million bond issue for the Meridian Public School District. Faculty and staff members are overjoyed with the improvements and changes that are underway for the district. We hear more from Superintendent Amy Carter.
I just want to say thank you, Meridian. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for saying yes to our children, to our educators. It means the world to us because now we have the opportunity to make some much needed upgrades to our facilities. So thank you, Meridian.
With this bond being approved for the district, there will be many upgrades and improvements taking place, with safety upgrades being the main priority.
Safety and security will be improving, as well as the accessibility of our buildings for disabled. We're looking at upgrades to libraries and media centers to bring them into the 21st century.
We're excited first and foremost to be able to focus on the security of our campuses, having fewer entrances for our guests, for our students, being able to secure our campuses with fencing. We're excited about the classroom upgrades, the upgrades to our media centers, our libraries, our auditoriums, our playgrounds.
Trussell, the director of athletics, says this is a big win for the district and is excited to have a softball and soccer facility on the campus.
We finally have a chance to have our softball and baseball facility on campus. It's been about almost 50 years since our baseball facility was on campus, and it means a lot to our student athletes. No longer do they have to drive 2.5, 3 miles for practice each day, but they'll be able to, once they get out of class, to be able to walk right into their own facility and a state-of-the-art facility.
Carter says they expect to see design plans beginning as soon as the fall and will be getting input from staff members and coaches about the upgrades.
From our staff members, from our coaches, from our team members about these upgrades, community members, and so we will be revealing information as it comes to us because we want our community to know step by step what's taking place with these upgrades.
Donisha Branham, Twin States News, Meridian.
This Sunday, the Meridian Restoration Foundation will host the Friends of Mary Hope Open House and Annual Meeting. This meeting will go over a report on the many activities and recent progress made in restoration efforts. The meeting will begin at 2 p.m., followed by the open house, and everyone is welcome. The Meridian Police Department is asking for your help. A 28-year-old woman was gunned down and murdered in December of 2020. 2 other victims were also shot but survived. The case has gone cold. Here's this week's Cold Case Files.
On July 30th, 2010, 28-year-old LaTanya LaFay Gowdy, along with 2 other adult females, were shot outside an apartment in the 500 block of Front Street Extension. Miss Gowdy died in surgery as a result of multiple gunshot wounds to the abdominal area, and the other 2 victims were treated for their injuries and released. Witnesses stated that after hearing numerous gunshots, 2 young black males with white t-shirts, dark short pants, and what appeared to be white bandanas or t-shirts wrapped around their face were observed running from the scene. One witness stated the individuals left in separate vehicles, with one being described as gray in color. The investigation indicated that retaliation was a possible motive in the shooting and that Ms. Gowdy may not have been the intended target.
A cold case is a crime that has not yet been fully resolved, but remains open pending the discovery of new evidence or new witness testimony. We are asking you, the public, to provide that new evidence or testimony in this cold case by calling the numbers on your screen.
Former President Donald Trump remained in New York today as he sat for a deposition in a civil investigation. This comes as more details emerge about the raid on his Mar-a-Lago property. Phil Keating has more.
Days after FBI agents raided his Florida property, former President Donald Trump sat down with lawyers for New York Attorney General Letitia James over the Trump family's business practices. He says he invoked the Fifth Amendment and declined to answer questions under oath. Despite the mounting legal issues, GOP House members say he is ready for a fight.
He's not fazed at all by what the DOJ has done to him. It unifies us in our outrage to fight back. And if anything, It paves the way for Donald Trump to unify the party once again and run for president.
On Monday, FBI agents executed a search warrant on Trump's Mar-a-Lago property. The warrant was reportedly about sensitive and confidential White House documents that were taken to Florida when Trump left the White House. Agents seized about a dozen boxes of materials. His attorneys were reportedly not allowed to be present during the raid.
This tactic seemed overwhelming in terms of what was actually being disputed or sought in terms of the documents, and I think that's shocked the nation.
Meanwhile, there are growing concerns about the safety of Attorney General Merrick Garland, FBI Director Christopher Wray, and other FBI agents following Monday's search. Sources telling Fox authorities who are monitoring social media posts are seeing an increase in death threats aimed towards the agents, Wray and Garland. Both Wray and Garland always travel with security, but there is some talk now going on whether that security needs to be enhanced. In Palm Beach, Florida, Phil Keating, Fox News.
A new report today showing inflation slowed slightly in July. But for many Americans, prices still remain uncomfortably high. Madeleine Rivera has more from Washington.
Despite scorching temperatures, Americans are feeling some relief. A key report showing inflation cooling slightly in July, with consumer prices increasing by 8.5% over the last year, a slower pace than the 9.1% spike in June.
We're seeing some signs that inflation may be beginning to moderate.
I know DC is going to spike the ball today and talk about how this is a big win, but Main Street doesn't think 8.5 or 8.1 or even if it's 7.1 is a win.
The overall drop partly fueled by a decrease in gas and energy prices. The average price for a regular gallon of gas now less than $4, down from last month's average of about $4.66. But other costs remain painfully high, wiping out wage growth, which is up 5.2% over the past year. Many, including those with higher incomes, are hunting for cheaper options. Dime Brands, the company that franchises Applebee's and IHOP, says it's seen a bump in sales from households earning more than $75,000 a year.
Just like a few items from the grocery store, I'm still racking up like $200 bills, and yet I have like two meals to make for dinner.
And some economists say it's too early to tell whether inflation has reached its peak.
I think inflation is still a major issue and will be for some time.
The Federal Reserve will weigh the report along with other economic data ahead of its September meeting when it's expected to raise interest rates again. In Washington, Madeleine Rivera, Fox News.
President Biden signs the PACT Act into law. The bill extends health and disability benefits to veterans who deal with health issues resulting from toxic burn pit exposure during their military service.
This is the most significant law our nation has ever passed to help millions of veterans who are exposed to toxic substances during their military services.
The PACT Act hitting close to home for President Biden, whose son Beau Biden died of brain cancer in 2015. Beau was a major in the Army National Guard. He deployed to Iraq in 2009. In Indiana, public visitation began today for the late Congresswoman Jackie Walorski, who died last week in a car accident. Walorski's flag-draped casket was carried into the funeral home in Granger, Indiana. Walorski and 3 others, including 2 of her staffers, died in a 2-vehicle crash on August 3rd. Her funeral is scheduled for tomorrow at the Granger Community Church. Indiana's governor has called for a special election to fill her seat on November 8th, concurrent with the general election. An Iranian national is wanted by the FBI on charges in a plot to kill former National Security Advisor John Bolton. Today, the Department of Justice announced that Shahram Pousafi of Tehran tried to arrange Bolton's assassination beginning in October of 2021. The 45-year-old, who also goes by Mehdi Rezai, is a member of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the assassination plot is believed to be in retaliation for the killing of Iranian Quds Force commander Qasem Soleimani in January 2020. The DOJ said Poursafi attempted to pay $300,000 to individuals in the U.S. to carry out the killing in Washington or Maryland. He remains at large. Nuclear fears are growing in Ukraine, where the Russian military continues to stage equipment and personnel at Europe's biggest nuclear plant. Alex Hogan has more from Kyiv, Ukraine.
We're showing the world that the United States of America can still do big things.
President Biden formally approving Sweden and Finland as the two newest NATO candidates, hoping to bolster the alliance's eastern flank as the war in Ukraine heats up. Russia still reeling from a massive explosion at a major airbase in Crimea, taking out aircraft and ammunition. Moscow says it was a fire. Kyiv isn't officially commenting. The Ukrainian president highlighted the significance of the peninsula, but didn't directly take credit for the attack.
This Russian war against Ukraine began with Crimea and must end with Crimea. It's liberation.
Meanwhile, the situation is getting more serious around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, where the Russian military is staging equipment and personnel near 3 active reactors. The fighting ramping up outside the facilities. Moscow overnight firing a missile attack on Ukrainian targets that killed at least 13 people just across the river. Russia and Ukraine are now both accusing each other of shelling around the plant. And while experts warn if the reactors are hit, it could send a cloud of radiation across Europe.
This is the most radioactive material in all nuclear power plants. This is fuel. Weather will decide what wind and which direction of wind, and this cloud will go.
The Ukrainian government is calling on the UN's nuclear watchdog to send a delegation to the plant. The International Atomic Energy Agency says that so far it has been unable to access the site. In Kyiv, Ukraine, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
Still ahead, we have your complete forecast, plus how the scorching heat could be affecting your allergies. Stay with us.
Good Wednesday evening, everyone. As we take a look at our precipitation update here in Meridian, we actually have a deficit of rainfall for the month and also for the year, despite the weather conditions that we have been tracking. But we do have some more rain in the forecast. We've been tracking the threat overnight and for the day tomorrow yet again. Scattered thunderstorms will be expected with heavy rainfall possible. A drier outlook, though, is going to be in place by the end of the week, especially by the weekend, and then cooler than average conditions as well, as we are indeed tracking temperatures that have been running below the norm. Now, after midnight, we'll see the rain and thunder threats diminishing, but as we look at the 8 a.m. hour tomorrow, you can see how rain gets reintroduced back into the forecast, as tomorrow we yet again have scattered thunderstorms in the works morning and into the afternoon. 71 for our morning low. Our high temperature tomorrow, 87 degrees. We're still well below the average, and this is a trend that has been very consistent for the last few days, and still in the coming days we look to generally stay below the norm here in Meridian. We've got what we call troughing happening along the Gulf Coast. That's what's indicated by this dotted dashed line here. And this is what's going to continue to generate waves of showers and rumbles. We've got south flow pooling in, a lot of that Gulf of Mexico moisture feeding up into this trough and approaching boundary that's stalling out. So all in all, this really sets us up with some more opportunities for thunderstorms for our Thursday. So we see scattered activity across the region here, and some periods of heavy rainfall cannot be ruled out, as we do have rich tropical moisture to work with, and of course that could really allow for some doses of downpours to occur across our communities. As we look at our precipitation forecasts in terms of accumulation, up to about a ½ an inch for most locations will be possible, maybe over that, up to 3/4 of an inch for others. 71 for tonight, with a chance for rain and rumbles diminishing after the 1 a.m. hour. We do have lows fairly seasonable for this time of the year. 69 for Philadelphia, Collinsville down to 71, 87 with scattered thunderstorms in tomorrow's forecast. Again, our average high for this time of the year is 94, so we're well below that. And storms will be more prevalent into the afternoon, and all of our communities have this opportunity for rain and thunderstorms, and rain that could be pretty heavy at times, from Livingston into Enterprise and Quitman. High temperatures in the upper 80s. An hourly breakdown: the showers and rumbles could occur at any point in the day, morning and into the afternoon time frame. We will be hanging on to storm chances too into our Friday, as we do track again scattered activity for then. Now by the weekend, we'll let up on the rain chances a bit. Some isolated storms maybe Saturday, but mainly sunshine is going to be prevalent, and we'll warm up a bit. High temperatures reaching 90, 91 degrees, eventually 92 by the early part of next week. Of course, we'll continue to fine-tune that forecast for you right here. Thanks for watching.
Elon Musk sells off Tesla shares ahead of his October court date with Twitter. Ford signs a new clean energy agreement, and Snapchat is giving parents more control. Chris Foster has these stories and more in today's Business Briefs.
Elon Musk sells nearly $7 billion worth of Tesla shares. The billionaire saying the funds could be used to finance the $44 billion Twitter takeover deal he backed out of earlier this year. Twitter sued Musk after he pulled out of the agreement over concerns about spam accounts. Both sides are heading to court over the issue in October. Ford takes its promise to go green a step further. It signed a landmark agreement to buy renewable energy from utility company DTE Energy. The deal will add 750 megawatts of new solar energy capacity at Ford's Michigan plants by 2025. This means every Ford car manufactured in the state will be assembled with the equivalent of 100% carbon-free electricity. Snapchat rolls out new parental controls. The social media platform launching a Snapchat Family Center, which allows parents to link accounts and keep tabs on teens' messaging. The new controls won't share private messages, but will allow parents to see which accounts teens are having conversations with on the app. They'll also be able to view a teen's friend list and report potential abuse to Snap's safety team for review. And Domino's Pizza is calling it quits in Italy. Bloomberg News reports the fast food pizza chain is shutting down all 29 of its locations in the country after 7 years in business. It reportedly couldn't compete with the popularity of local mom-and-pop pizza shops. Domino's hasn't released a statement on the closures.
Allergy flare-ups tend to be worse in the springtime for allergy sufferers, but doctors say the scorching heat could cause your allergies to flare up. Timmeney explains.
There are several factors at play here, and for allergy sufferers, it all adds up to discomfort with a capital D.
I've been feeling like recently for the past since last week, actually, it's been real hot. 90s, 93, 95, 97s and stuff like that.
Tough to breathe?
Yeah, tough to breathe.
Ronnie Piedra works outside at Suburban Square in Ardmore and says this extreme heat is causing his allergies to flare up.
It does add on to that, yes.
Dr. Karina Bowser of Suburban Allergy Consultants in Narberth says there's a reason people's allergies may seem worse right now.
The warmer the temperatures, the more stressed the plants become, and we have actually found that there's more allergen per pollen grain. So yes, the heat itself and the warming can lead to differences in pollination periods and actually cause more aggressive pollen if you want.
Dr. Bowser says it's not the nicely blooming bee-pollinating plants that are causing problems. It's wind-pollinated plants, like trees.
Actually, I looked up tree pollen counts today. They're still high. Usually, tree pollen season is over in May. So we're now in August, and we still have tree pollen. That is unusual.
And she says that can lead to crossover allergy seasons.
So people who have tree pollen allergy and grass pollen allergy now maybe notice both of them together, and it's overlapping and causing more symptoms.
Whatever it is, Karen Fitzer, who suffers from hay fever, says besides the runny nose,
I certainly think I feel more cranky and cantankerous than usual.
While it's been unbearably hot and humid, it's been windy too. And Dr. Bowser says that wind is a culprit as well, blowing around pollen and mold, exacerbating allergies.
Still ahead, academic professionals sharing ways you can ensure your kids start school off on the right foot this fall. That story and more coming up. Well, if COVID-19 could get a grade, it would be an F. But as students prepare to go back to school this fall, many are still struggling to combat the massive learning gaps caused by the pandemic. Ted Lindner has a look at how students are trying to overcome the setbacks as academic professionals share tips and tricks about how you can ensure your kids start off school on the right foot.
Pandemic-era learning setbacks once again rearing their ugly head, and the timing couldn't be worse as hundreds of thousands of new incoming college students prepare to start the next chapter of their lives. But many are still struggling to adapt to pre-pandemic academics.
They expected us to be fully acclimated to how it was before.
After many spent roughly half of their high school careers juggling remote learning.
I was more of going to online school to pass, not really to learn.
The transition was hard for students like Angel Hope, who started skipping out on his virtual classes. And while he recently graduated high school with good grades, he felt unprepared for college.
Part of me feels like I deserve it because, I went through that. But part of me is that I really get, the best education that I could.
Educators say students who fall behind in their learning have higher risks of dropping out of college. Not wanting to be a statistic, Hope enrolled at the University of Wisconsin-Madison's summer program, where he learned math skills he missed and developed important study habits. But regardless of what grade your child may be starting,
you have to be healthy, well rested, and fed before you can learn.
Academic professionals say it's critical they enter school with a positive mindset.
Even if school has been a negative experience in the past, we're starting fresh and really take a positive, enthusiastic outlook to school.
And recommending parents stay involved with their child's class by volunteering, attending events, and staying active on the school's social media accounts. The United Nations reports roughly 11 million tons of plastic ends up in the world's oceans every year, with overall ocean plastic pollution on the verge of tripling by 2040. And while large plastic debris is bad, microplastics are also creating massive environmental hazards for people and animals. Marianne Rafferty has a look at the unique robotic and scientific solutions helping to save the planet from the tiny debris.
At less than 5 millimeters in size, microplastics are tiny pieces of plastic debris packing deadly consequences for the world's oceans. And while real fish should not be eating the particles, researchers in China are developing robotic fish to absorb the toxic waste.
The porous structure of the microplastics attract harmful substances such as heavy metals, which amplify their toxicity.
The robot fish are controlled by light and can operate in shallow water, with scientists aiming to have them removing microplastic below the surface of the oceans in the near future. And there's no time to waste. Data collected by the Worldwide Fund for Nature estimates there could be 50 times more microplastic in the oceans by the end of the century. It's prompting scientists at the University of Barcelona to train community members on how they can help save the planet.
They are citizens that are training in how they have to collect scientific samples.
Now, hundreds of volunteers are taking part in the Surfing for Science project, attaching special nets to their paddleboards and kayaks so they can scoop up microplastic before it's consumed by aquatic creatures.
The majority of the injuries that we do see is obviously ingestion of plastics.
Like this sea turtle recently rescued off a beach in Sydney, Australia, who veterinarians witnessed passing microplastic through its bowels for 6 days. But humans are also exposed to microplastics. The Worldwide Fund for Nature estimates people eat as much as a credit card's worth of plastic each week.
Stay with us. We'll have more after the break. As always, we want to leave you with a smile. If you love pickles, then this drink is for you. Sonic's Pickle Juice Slush is back. It's a combination of the flavor of a dill pickle paired with Sonic's classic sweet slush. Interesting. The drink is available to order now through August 28th. It was first sold in 2018. The food chain says it decided to bring the drink back because of how many customers requested it on social media. I'm Harriet Wallace. Thank you so much for watching.